Hello and welcome to Diabetes Connections in the News. I'm Stacey Sims, and these are the top diabetes stories and headlines of the past 7 days. As always, I'm going to link up my sources in the Facebook comments where we are live and in the show notes at diabetes-connections.com when this airs as a podcast, so you can read more and then follow up when you have the time. In the News is brought to you by Inside the Breakthrough, a new history of science podcast full of did you know stuff. The top story this week: one step forward, one step back on a lawsuit involving all three insulin makers. A federal judge dropped antitrust claims, but the case will move forward under federal racketeering laws. That means Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, and Sanofi face organized crime charges. The judge says the plaintiffs plausibly alleged schemes of unlawful bribery and mail and wire fraud. The other defendants in this case are pharmacy benefit managers Express Scripts, CVS Health, and United Health. Lilly, Novo, and Sanofi are accused in the lawsuit of inflating the official list price of insulin, while the actual prices negotiated by pharmacy benefit managers remained flat due to massive rebates from the drug companies. In a separate story, Lilly announced they have spent $1 billion on Proton Technologies, a company that's been working on what they call smart insulin. These proteins can sense concentrations of specific molecules and then adjust to create variable doses. So the insulin product adjusts to different glucose levels in people with diabetes. In 2020, Lilly led an investment round that gave them 14% of the company, and this deal gives them the rest. We've heard about glucose responsive insulin or smart insulin for a while now. JDRF has funded a lot of the research. A spokesperson says this significant milestone brings the promise of the game-changing technology one step closer to the clinic. Mixed news from Provention, the makers of Teplizumab. The U.S. FDA says no to the drug shown to delay type 1 diabetes in those most at risk. It made it through an FDA advisory panel earlier this year. We reported on that. But the full FDA issued what's called a complete response letter, or CRL, which means they've completed the review and won't approve it in its current form. However, earlier this week, the company got some good news from the UK. Teplizumab was awarded an innovation passport, a new designation that is meant to fast-track investigational medicines through the regulatory process there. An Australian study shows good outcomes with closed-loop therapy for older adults who've had type 1 for a long time. This small study looked at 30 healthy adults aged 60 and older who'd previously used an insulin pump. They used the Medtronic 670G either in manual or auto mode for 4 months at a time. Then they switched to the other mode for another 4 months. Now, everybody in the study spent more time in range when in the closed loop stage. The biggest benefit was seen overnight. Less hypoglycemia, a big benefit for this group. These researchers say they want people to know that older age is not a barrier to closed loop therapy, and closed loop has important clinical benefits. Bit of an editorial here. I would not call the 670G or really any current commercial pump offering a closed loop. To me, if you're still bolusing for meals, that is a hybrid closed loop or a partial loop. But, maybe it's potato. Pixar released the teaser for its next movie, Turning Red, and eagle-eyed members of the diabetes online community spotted what looks like a CGM that's on the right and a purple insulin pump. If you look closely where that purple arrow is, you can spot it, maybe an older model Medtronic. Now, I've been looking into this, and I heard from a source at Pixar with type 1 who says this is absolutely on purpose. Quote, "It is definitely intentional to include better representation of the real world, whether it is wheelchair users, crutches, pumps, CGMs, hearing aids, and more. This initiative is largely credited to our characters, art, and crowds departments. I am working with the Pixar PR folks, and I hope to have more information, maybe an interview, as the movie gets closer to its release." A class of drugs widely used to treat heartburn and stomach ulcers improve blood sugar in patients with diabetes when added to their usual treatment. These drugs are known as proton pump inhibitors. They include Prilosec and omeprazole. They suppress acid and affect certain hormones that are important in glucose regulation. They did not prevent diabetes, but these researchers say if somebody's already on a PPI and they're doing well, it might also be helpful for their diabetes. Those with higher A1Cs benefited the most. More to come, but first, I want to tell you about one of our great sponsors who helps make Diabetes Connections possible. Inside the Breakthrough is a podcast that mixes historical wisdom with modern insight. It is a science show that's also very entertaining. I love it. They cover everything from accidental discoveries to famous names in science to old myths about hand washing and even the horse poop crisis in New York City, luckily averted. And all of this actually does relate to diabetes. Listen to Inside the Breakthrough wherever you listen to podcasts. A new attempt to climb K2, the second highest mountain on Earth, something accomplished by only one person with type 1 diabetes before. Right now, Jerry Gore, diagnosed as an adult, is acclimating at the base camp. Gore is 60 years old. He's been climbing for 40 years. He hopes to raise money for his charity, Action for Diabetes, which provides healthcare and support to disadvantaged young people with type 1 diabetes in Southeast Asia. And congratulations to Sebastian Sasseville, who just biked across Canada in 15 days. We told you about this trip when he kicked it off 2 weeks ago. I don't think anybody expected the weather to do what it did. Canada broke several heat records. There were storms, a lot of wind. Sasseville lives with type 1. He did this to raise awareness for access to technology. He has climbed Everest and has completed several grueling extreme races. He posted this on his Instagram. This was the hardest thing I have ever done. I could not have done it without the crew. They kept me safe and alive. I will be forever grateful. We did it, boys. Chase life experiences and create memories with people you love. That is my best advice for a fulfilled life. Congratulations to Sebastian and crew. And that is Diabetes Connections in the news. If you like it, please share it and feel free to send me your news tips. Stacy at diabetes-connections.com. Please join me wherever you get podcasts for our next episode. Coming up on Tuesday, a conversation with just a great guy. He is 81 years old. He's lived with type 1 for more than 62 years. He has an awful lot to say. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you soon.